everyone, and welcome to the Biblical Bookworm. My name is Elizabeth, and today I'm here with a guest because we'd like to discuss the topic of friendship, and so I thought it would be good to have an online friend here. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because people talk a lot about romantic relationships, but hardly anyone talks about relationships with friends. And as we will discuss today, those are at least equally as important as romantic relationships. So maybe, Monet, let's start with an introduction of yourself. Who are you and how do we know each other?
Yes. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be collaborating with you once again on an episode together. My name is Monet Souza. I'm the founder of A Message of Hope. It's an apostolate, a ministry for high school and college students. I do speaking events in person, virtually, and I also have a YouTube channel. And if you want to go to that page, you can see an episode Elizabeth and I had done together. But when I'm not there, I'm also working as a full-time producer at Catholic TV. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. Thank you. So the funny story is we actually made a collaboration, as you mentioned, like 1.5 years ago. And back then you were my first collaboration. That's the first fun fact. And the second one is back then I only had like 80 subscribers. So you are for me like a big internet sister. So it's really cool to now have a collaboration on my channel. Now, maybe let's start with the question, why is friendship important? I like to mention a quote that my mom always used to tell me. Namely, she says that people need to have experience with friends before they can have a romantic relationship. And I think the reason for that is because the foundation of each romantic relationship should be a friendship, because at some point the infatuation fades away and what is left is a friendship, because otherwise I think the relationship won't hold for a lifetime. Moni, what do you think? What are other reasons why is friendship important?
Well, that quote from your mom is so beautiful and it is so true. And having a friendship really gives anyone a glimpse, no matter what kind of vocation you're called to, whether it's religious life, living in that kind of community, priesthood, married life, single life. But it is so vital to know how to learn how to communicate. And a friendship helps with that because you're going to walk with that individual through highs and lows and through good times and bad times, but also being able to have a friend support you in your endeavors. And I think too, all the great friendships I have, thank God, today, and these men and women just know how to support me well and call me on higher to my my identity as a daughter of God. And they support me in every facet of my life, where also when it eventually translates to a romantic relationship, hopefully your future husband or wife will support you also in all endeavors that you do, not just as a friendship. You don't want to be in a friendship where it's just giving, or just taking. It's supposed to be mutual, a give and take. And also it's supposed to be, I love and appreciate you and your time for all that God has created you to be, not just for this area in your life. That holds true in my life in very particular ways. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more too in this video.
Sure. Thank you. I think you're absolutely spot on. Of course, it's important that we support each other, especially as Christians. We need Christian friendship so that we can get closer to the Lord and help each other in that way. And what is particularly tragic is I feel like we're currently going through a friendship crisis because I'm on different anonymous forums, and the question that is asked most often on those forums, and those are student college forums or just not the content related forums. And the question that is asked most often there is, how do I make friends? It's so difficult to make friends in college. And there are actually even figures that support that thesis that we have a friendship crisis, because apparently 27% of all millennials don't have close friends, and 22% of millennials don't have any friends. So there's like 50% of people don't have any close friends. So there seems to be something missing in our society today. What do you think? What could be reasons for that? Why are people so friendless nowadays?
I know. I wish I had the perfect answer, but the only answer I can really draw from personal experience and from what I hear from individuals who talk to me, because through a message of hope, I have so many people who reach out to me saying, Monet, I just moved to such and such a state or city and I don't have community yet. Can you connect me with people who you know in the area? And I have such a passion and desire to get people in community with other good Catholic individuals who are going to call them into greater love for our Lord and into greater fellowship with other people who have same morals and beliefs as them. But I think one of the struggles is that many people don't know who they are. And when we don't know who we are, we don't know what kind of groups we're searching out for. So for my own personal experience, there were so many pockets of time I lost sight of who Monet is. And that then translated to me grasping at all these friend groups that would just notice me rather than, is this a friend that is going to encourage me to do the right thing? Is this a friend that's going to pray with me? Is this a friend who's going to have my back when things get difficult? Where instead I was just looking for, okay, who are just people I can be around so I don't feel so lonely and I don't feel so alone. So I think it's having lack of self-awareness of who we are. And also we get so distracted with things in front of us, whether it's our phone or choosing to be in front of a screen at all times. And when we're in front of a screen, I'm just seeing firsthand, even from teacher friends of mine, they're saying, Monet, we're seeing a new generation come into our classrooms who don't even know how to have conversation with their fellow peers because they don't know how to get out from behind the screen. And they get so paralyzed when it comes to just conversing with someone else. And they get so nervous. And they said it's almost like an epidemic. And I believe that's what it is. The society that we're in is drawing us away from face-to-face conversation where we can get to know the other. So right off the bat, those are the two things that I think of.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it's, first of all, it's difficult, as you said, to have the perfect answer to that question. And there are probably many factors that play into that. But
Right.
that's actually why I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to start a conversation about that topic. And also to my audience, please feel free to comment under this video your experience and your opinion on that topic. And please note that I react to almost every comment. And it's important to talk about this. I think we haven't found a solution for this problem yet, and that's also why the problem is so huge, because no one really knows how to tackle it. But yeah, that's why I wanted to make this video in the first place. And you mentioned being alone and loneliness. That's actually the loneliness part. I wanted to mention that that's pretty tragic, because I've heard somewhere that being lonely is just as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So it's not just some, happens that you're lonely. It actually has very grave consequences. And you mentioned alone and loneliness. Could you maybe explain what the difference is?
Of course. So for one of my episodes that I did on my YouTube channel, it's Lonely versus Being Alone. And I go into greater depth, just continuing off of this conversation Elizabeth and I are having about my personal experiences of being lonely and being alone. But we have to recognize that being alone is a state of being. So for instance, right now, I'm in my dining room alone. So that means there's physically no one else with me. But loneliness is a feeling. So loneliness, I was looking up before this all started, and I looked at a website that's Campaign to End Loneliness. And it says loneliness can be sparked by changing life circumstances, financial problems, living, maybe a little bit more secluded, death of a loved one, but you can still be around people. So that's why sometimes we hear the phrase of, I feel so lonely, even though I'm in a whole crowd of people. There can be a ton of people around you, but you can still feel this emotion of deep loneliness. So one is physically around you alone, and one is an emotion loneliness.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. And do you think that maybe online friends could help with loneliness or with being alone, with either of those? Because with online friends, you're still alone in a room. But do you think that it helps that online friends are real friendships?
I would think so, because I would hope that, I know you and I have talked about this before, but Elizabeth, you are a friend of mine. And I'm sure that if we lived in the same country, we would be sure to get together and have conversations the same way that we do over like a call or through a phone call or something like that. But I do believe they're true friendships because a friendship, again, it's give and take, good communication, and willing the good of another. So
Mhm.
you can do that whether it's face to face with someone who's tangibly next to you or virtually who you see someone through a screen, as long as those foundational principles and foundational blocks are still present. I believe you can have a friendship with whomever, wherever they're living, no matter what time zone they're in, whether they're with you in person or not. um, but I think the perspective that we can take for as Catholics is that we can debunk that you are actually never alone. Someone who has no, you know, there can be moments where like, oh, I wish I had a friend who was right next to me, but our Catholic faith tells us that we are never alone, that we always have the angels, the saints, our guardian angel, the Trinity around us at all times, and we just need to call on them and really invite them into our lives as our friends. And then I think we can begin to dissipate all of that alone, those feelings of being alone and maybe even loneliness. But again, it is a slow journey. Maybe it's faster for some others, but what about you, Elizabeth? I'm just going to turn the question on you because I know we've talked about your community where you are. Um, how has your friendships through people from all these other countries and states, how has that helped you know that you have friendships all over the world?
You mean with my ministry, with my YouTube channel?
Yes. Or beyond,
Okay.
or beyond.
Yeah. Interesting question. Because I actually, one of the reasons why I founded that YouTube channel is I wanted to find people with similar interests. And at the beginning, actually, one of my goals was to find Catholic friends who also enjoyed Catholic literature. And I actually didn't expect that many people would be interested in Catholic books. I thought in the first year that maybe 300 people would listen to those books, and it was many more. So I'm really happy about that. But the thing is that communication is very limited when I'm talking to a camera and they max write a comment. So I think that in that sense, it's not really possible to form a friendship just in the comment section on YouTube. Although I have a
Right.
feeling that I know some of my subscribers really well from the comment section. But what that YouTube channel did is that because I told other people that I have that YouTube channel, we could talk about the fact that I like Catholic books. And so we had a conversation starter in a way. So it had a effect on my friendships that I haven't anticipated. And also the fact that I'm friends with you, because with you it works a little bit better because we can talk off camera and we can actually have a phone call. So that's something that I
Right.
didn't expect when I founded my YouTube channel, but it actually does help. Yes, of course, it's possible to have online friendship, even if it's not in the way that I expected it to. And
Yes.
maybe another question, how do you think, how can we make that work? How is it possible to make friends either online or like in real life?
Well, when you were talking, Elizabeth, the first thing that came to mind that I don't even think we've mentioned yet is when forming a friendship or even finding community or finding a friend. And I believe we talked about this before this episode, but find something that you have in common with that person. So, like you were saying, all of a sudden you started seeing how your channel was growing because you love reading, and then you attracted other people who love literature and love reading as well. Where, for someone who absolutely despises sports, but thinks I'm going to find friends that way, if that's the other person's common ground and their interest, it's not really going to mesh that well if you yourself don't have the same love for sports as that person does. But when we go to these places or these events or these YouTube platforms, we can begin to form a friendship with people who have similar interests as we do. So speaking in, an online forum kind of way, follow accounts that are content related that you enjoy. When it comes to in person, the same thing can translate. Go to events that you enjoy. Is it the Bible study? Is it the book club? Is it the Catholic sports team? Find the places that you enjoy, find the content that you enjoy watching or reading. And then all of a sudden, you'll see how community will begin to form because dialogue will begin to form around that particular subject matter or that event or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. I think it's important to have some sort of common interest when it comes to friendships. And also C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Four Loves, said that in order to make friends, it's important to have an interest that is other than being interested in having friends. So because you need a common interest, you need to be interested in something else. And I've actually made a summary of that book, so I'll probably link that in the description. But what that shows is, as you mentioned, it's important to go to events, to follow sites that you're interested in. And also, I'd like to read a quote by C.S. Lewis, by the way, where he says what friendship is. I will show that on the screen later. Friendship arises out of mere companionship when two or more of the companions discover that they have in common some insight or interest, or even taste which the others do not share, and which, till that moment, each believed to be his own unique treasure or virtue. So yeah, I found that quote really beautiful. But one thing that came to mind when I was thinking about the content for this video is when we say, yeah, go to events, the problem is that some people are shy and maybe fear rejection. Do you have an idea for those people? Because I can imagine that is a difficult situation. What do you do at that event? You just stand there and stare at people? I don't think that it's that easy.
No. Well, the first experience that I can think of that begins to maybe relinquish that fear is I was in college and I was a freshman. And again, it goes back to who are we? And we begin to know ourselves by spending time with ourselves. We cannot love others until we know and love ourselves for who God created us to be, not in this selfish kind of way or egotistic way, but truly saying, wow, I love how the Lord, gave me this certain type of personality or these traits or this physical look that he's given me, whatever it may be. That's how we can truly love who we are as created beings in the eyes of God the Father. But when I was a freshman, there was this particular morning, and normally you would find a whole bunch of girls on your dorm room floor, and I'm sure this still happens, and you would want to go to breakfast, lunch, dinner with a group of people. You never wanted to go into the dining hall alone because you walk in, you don't know who you're going to sit with, you get intimidated, say, with the football team who's off in the corner, everyone's there, hustle and bustle, and then you sometimes turn inward and you get nervous. And I was waiting one morning to go with a group of people to eat breakfast before my classes. And I couldn't find anyone. Everyone was already either at the library, at class, or they were like, oh, I already ate Monet. And I remember I had a choice in that moment. Either I don't go to the dining hall and eat because I was so scared of being perceived as being alone, or I pushed past that fear and I went to a place where I knew I was going to be physically fed because I was so hungry. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go. So I start walking down the hall and I see a few girls living on my floor. They go, where are you going, Monet? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the dining hall. And I still remember to this day, their shock. And they're like, you're going by yourself? Like it was this taboo thing. And I was like, yes, I have to go by myself because no one else is able to join me and I'm hungry. So I was able to go to the dining hall and it wasn't as bad as I thought. So I truly believe that can be translated when we go into a community for the first time, whether we've just moved, whether we've, maybe knew about a group happening, but we want to try another one. It starts with just casting off all of those fears and all those lies that we're going to look like a weirdo walking into an event by ourselves. So once we can do that first step, because we have this hunger for friendship, the same way I had hunger for food, and we get in those places. And my rule of thumb always has been, okay, it may be intimidating seeing a group of 6 or 7 people talking, but what about that one person who's grabbing food onto their plate, who's also standing by themselves? I usually, out of a comfort zone, will go up to that person rather than the larger group. Or you can go and find, say, the priest or the young adult who put on the event, befriend them, and then automatically they always introduce you to more people in the room. So those are a couple practical ways that I've done and hopefully will help. But yeah, when one person is shy, it can be so easy to just become a wallflower and be like, oh man, I don't want to have to initiate. But especially in Catholic circles and hopefully beyond, someone will see that you are sitting solo and will approach you first. Hopefully that will be the easiest option that takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to remember that many people are also waiting for someone to approach them. So it isn't even that weird to go up to someone because, for example, in college, each semester we're in different classes because everyone is taking different courses, and I think that many people are waiting for someone to come to them and start the conversation. So just I think it's helpful to remember that others need your help just as you need someone else's help. So why don't be the first person who starts the conversation? And also another thing about overcoming the fear of rejection. I saw a TED talk recently, and I'll link it in the description. It's absolutely fascinating, where a guy tried to overcome his fear of rejection. And so he did a weird or uncomfortable or embarrassing thing each day. So for example, he went into a donut shop and asked the owner to give him donuts in the formation of the Olympic rings. So you have the donuts
Yes.
in the formation of the Olympic rings. And yeah, and of course the donut owner looked at him but actually tried to help him. And I think the video has now 6 million views because people were amazed by the fact that he then actually got donuts in the formation of the Olympic rings. And what that shows, and he also explains that in that TED talk, is that if you mention that the situation is weird, then it becomes less weird because then the other person sees, okay, that's a weird situation. And you have the confidence to say, or to take the confidence to say, this is now weird. Then the other person, yeah, this is weird. But then, yeah, that person gives you the Olympic rings. And I think it's just first by practicing rejection, we overcome the fear of rejection. And also in my experience, people are nice, actually. So if they don't have a reason to be mean to you and you just ask them for the Olympic rings, then yeah, why not? Why not?
Right.
So yeah, I'll link that video in the description. I think it's a very helpful resource to overcome that fear.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to say. Is there anything else you wanted to say on it?
Um, not on that topic. I think you covered it well, but yeah, there is something to say in with anything that we do. Everything becomes easier with time. The more we, work out, it's going to become easier to build those muscles. The more we study, the smarter we are going to become. And also the more we converse with people we don't know, it's going to become easier in time to talk to even complete strangers. And again, I know this from firsthand experience. And if someone doesn't want to talk, brush it off. Don't take it personally, because if we take that in and then we let it like become part of us, then it's going to almost paralyze us to go out and to talk to someone else again. So I think having a lightheartedness when approaching new people is huge.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So I think we covered the topic well. Thank you for joining me, Monet. I will link the link to your channel in the description. And yeah, to my audience, see you next week. God bless and bye.